Hello everyone, I am the Desert Gardener, and today we're going to be talking about how to grow herbs for tea. So let's talk about that. So I was talking to a friend of mine recently, and I mentioned that I grow herbs for tea, and that surprised her. She didn't know you could do that. So that gave me the idea for the video. So I'm going to do a step-by-step process from start to finish, show you how you can grow herbs for tea. So the first step is to decide what herbs you're going to grow and procure the seeds. Now you can get these little seed packets anywhere. Now my absolute favorite herb for tea is catnip. It's easy to grow, it makes a wonderful tea, and I'm really surprised it's not more popular. You can buy catnip in tea bags, but it's one of those things you have to special order. You're not going to find it in the grocery store. And my next favorite is chamomile. It's also another nice one. It's very relaxing. And mint is another good one as well. Now, a little tip about mint. If you're going to grow mint, don't put it in your garden. Put it in some sort of container. Mint is a bit invasive and it has a tendency to spread and you could have trouble getting rid of it. So it's best to put it in a container of some sort. Now the next step is once you get your seeds, is you're going to put them in the refrigerator. You should always store your seeds someplace cool and dry. This will help them last longer and it helps simulate winter, so they're more likely to sprout and germinate when it comes time to plant. So the next thing is to read the back of the package. Now this will give you some useful information. If you're planning on planting outdoors, of course you're going to want to plant it at the right season. But if you're planting indoors and you're going to grow these on your kitchen windowsill or something, and then that doesn't matter. But it'll sometimes tell you things like how deep to plant them and whether they needed to be soaked overnight, things like that. Most don't, but it's best to look just to be sure. Now the next one is something that I've talked about many times, and that is you're going to take your potting soil and you're going to put it in some sort of colander like this cheap one I got at a garage sale for $1. And you're going to pour boiling hot water over that, and this will kill any insect eggs that are inside. Now if you're planting outdoors, of course that doesn't matter. But if you're putting this indoors, you're definitely going to want to do that. That way you don't end up with fungus gnats all over your kitchen. So the next one is we're going to plant. So I've got about 20 hyssop seeds here. Now I've never planted hyssop before, but it's a flower that people have been using for tea for many years, so I thought I'd give it a try. So I'm just going to sprinkle this on here. And then I'm going to rough it up a little bit with my fingertips. Now these seeds are very small, so they don't have to be planted deep at all. And the next one is to water. Now the potting soil was already quite moist, so I'm just going to take a mister here and I'm going to mist them really well. You don't want them to float, but you do want to keep them warm and moist for the first few days. Now the next one is we're going to put this someplace. Now it's best to put that someplace warm and dark. Seeds don't need sunlight to germinate. Now if you don't have any place like that, you can just cover it with something. Put it in the windowsill and cover it. Now after a few days, once they start to sprout, take the cover off or put it someplace where it's going to get indirect sunlight. Here in the desert, direct sunlight is a little too much on small seedlings, so someplace where it's going to get some indirect sun. And now, do you need to fertilize these? Not at first, no. Seedlings never need to be fertilized. All the nutrients they need is in that seed. However, once they get bigger and they start growing into a bigger plant like this one here, fertilizer is a good idea. Now, as I've mentioned before, stay away from granular fertilizers. If you're planting in a container, you're going to need some sort of liquid fertilizer. A good fish and kelp works, but of course that has an odor. Lately, for my indoor plants, I've been using this Fox Farm Grow Big. This seems to work really well, and there's no odor at all. It's meant for hydroponics, and it works really well for this sort of thing. Now the next one is you can begin uh, harvesting right away. Now, I did another video that talked about how you snip off the top, and this stimulates extra growth, but that's not what we're doing here. We want a big branch. But what I like to do, if I can, is let the plant bolt. And that is when it creates a little flower up here and turns to seed. And once that dries out, I like to pick that off, scatter it into the pot, and then cut that branch. This way, though, you have a continuous supply. But since there's no bolting here, I'm just going to take this guy off right here. And then I'm going to hang this up to dry. This should be enough for a single cup of tea. Now, I have a drying rack, which I'll show a little picture of. It's basically just a piece of wood that has 5 clothespins on it. I just glue those on with some wood glue, and I can hang these up there, and that'll allow them to dry. But you don't have to do that. You can just set them on a plate or something like that. That works as well. Now, you can make tea out of fresh herbs like this. However, if you do, you're going to need to use twice as many. Dried herbs will work better, but the fresh herbs, you'll need a little bit more than that. And the next one is kind of an optional step. What I like to do is I take, let's set the fresh one aside. Now, this is a dry one that has already been drying for a few weeks. I'm going to take this and I'm going to put this in my mortar and pestle. And I'm going to very lightly push on this. You're not trying to grind it into a powder. You're just trying to break it up a little bit, as well as if it's a little fresh, you'll get those, it'll release those essential oils. Now the next thing, let's jump ahead to the sweetening. So I like to use honey when making my tea, but once in a while I do use sugar. So I really wanted to show off this device that I bought here recently. You can set it for any amount, and it'll pre-measure that for you. And there's this little button here on the front. So you press the button, and a predetermined amount comes out. So you get the exact amount every time, as long as you shake it up a little bit, so it doesn't clump. Now, once you've got all your ingredients ready, now we're going to steep the tea. Now you can put the tea in a reusable tea bag, like this little hemp bag here, or you can use a tea ball. I seem to have misplaced mine. You can also use a French press, but I really prefer using this here. Now this is a stainless steel reusable coffee filter. So I just put that in my cup, and I'm going to scrape my herbs into it. And then I'm going to add some hot water. So I'll be right back. So this part's probably obvious. We're just going to pour in our hot water. And wait about 5 minutes. Now, after about 5 minutes, we're going to simply lift this up, let the excess water drain out. I like to have a second cup handy to put the filter in. Once it cools, we're going to have some tea. Very nice.